I haven't spent more than 3 hours with TemTem, not because it isn't a good game, but rather I'm so fond of it that I'm torn on how to approach this early access title. I want to inhale all of its content, but I really hate starting an experience that can't be fully consumed yet. And based off of the small slice of TemTem that I've played so far, I know that I could get lost in this game. But at the same time, I know this isn't the full experience. I can't see and do everything yet because, well, everything's not done yet. These situations always cause conflict in me. I want to play it now, but I also want the full experience. And because of this, I decided to allow myself to dabble in TemTem for a few hours just to dip my toes in the water. I promised myself to make a TemTem impressions video, which further helped justify my urge to play this game, so here we are. So what I'm gonna do now is just share my first thoughts on TemTem, and keep in mind, I've only put a few hours into this game, so these are just initial impressions. If anything I say here isn't completely true, it's because I haven't experienced enough of the game yet to know for sure. But anyway, let's go. Part of the reason for why my TemTem temptation won out was how underwhelming the recent Pokemon games have been. For anyone living under a rock for the last year, TemTem is heavily inspired by Pokemon. In fact, it's borderline the same structurally, save for the fact that this newest title is also an MMO. Pokemon worlds have always been fun to explore, but with TemTem, you aren't alone in uncovering a vast region. For years, fans of the Pokemon series have clamored for something of this nature. It felt like a natural evolution for the series. With Game Freak refusing to take this pathway, Crema, a Spanish development studio, kickstarted the TemTem project a few years back and quickly gained traction, proving just how much interest there was in a Pokemon-like MMO. In fact, the interest in TemTem might even be aided by Game Freak against their will, after many fans have felt let down lately with the retreading of the Kanto region in the Let's Go games, the undercooked and flat Generation 8 games, and the lack of excitement surrounding the Diamond and Pearl remakes. These recent shortcomings have paved the way for TemTem, and based off of what I've played so far, they're on the path to success. One thing that immediately jumped out to me when playing TemTem is how much effort was exerted to make sure the airborne archipelago, as well as its inhabitants, were well realized. In fact, in some ways, it dwarfs its source of inspiration in this regard. I've only explored a handful of routes, but the ones I have seen are probably twice as long as your average Pokemon route. This makes travel between each town feel like a more significant journey, instead of a hop and a skip. I've always thought Pokemon regions have felt too condensed, none more so than Galar, and it was refreshing to see routes that actually felt like they were emphasizing their namesake. The town design, while similar to Pokemon, also felt very well done and was on par with those titles. When it comes to NPCs though, TemTem blows Pokemon out of the water. Each tamer I battled and village dweller I talked to seemed to have a real background. They'd often ask questions before battling me, sometimes about TemTem, sometimes just about life in general. This flavor text might seem insignificant or even tedious to some, but to me, it made this world feel more alive, as if its people actually function and thrive in this land. These conversations really impressed me and left me wanting to talk to every person that I encountered. In fact, this also led me to uncover some of the game's side quests, which are relatively simple in design, but their sheer existence was enough to garner praise from me. For years, I've wished Pokemon games would incorporate something like these, and seeing my quest log fill up in TemTem had me questioning my loyalty. Sure, this content is to be expected in an MMO, but it still felt refreshing given how closely intertwined this title is with Pokemon. So moving on, let's talk about the creature design before diving into the battle mechanics. This is certainly one area where Pokemon outshines its latest competition, as even some of the less favorable designs outclass what we find in TemTem. Don't get me wrong, there are some neat looking TemTem. Some of my personal favorites include Smazzy, Loali, Scale, Crystal, and Calibus. However, on the whole, I feel that many of the designs are too simple, and more importantly, they lack an overall cohesion in their style. Like, I can look at any creature design and identify it as being based on Pokemon. They're all different, but they look stylistically the same. With TemTem though, I never got that feeling. Perhaps this will change with more time invested into the title, but after a few hours, I struggled to remember most of their names, even after encountering some of them a dozen times. I've only experienced the battle system in short, but from what I've seen so far, I like it. I was initially skeptical of the 2 vs 2 format. I've always preferred single battles, but I know most competitive Pokemon tournaments use the 2v2 format, so I was willing to give it a shot. Just like in Pokemon, your TemTem have 4 moves that they can use, but instead of PP, they have a stamina bar. More powerful moves use more stamina, and if you run out of stamina, your TemTem loses a portion of its health. If you're already low on HP, it might even knock out your TemTem. To counter this, a small portion of stamina is recovered after each round, and you have the option to wait a turn before declaring your next attack to not force your TemTem into fainting. It's pretty well thought out. There's also a type system, similar to Pokemon, to consider. There's some familiar ones like fire, water, flying, etc. that have all been rebranded as to not step on the toes of its spiritual predecessor, but there's also new ones like digital and crystal. Using type advantages will help carry you to victory, but in my limited testing, they don't seem to be as overpowered as they are in Pokemon. Very rarely, if ever, was I able to one-shot an opposing creature. This, paired up with the stamina meter, made me consider my moves more carefully instead of just spamming my way to success. Granted, this could change over many hours with a better understanding of how the systems work, but for now, it feels fresh and engaging. Let me also share a few cool things I noticed about the battle system while playing that really stood out to me. TemTem moves, which are called techniques, don't have a min-max range for how much damage they do per hit. Each move does a set amount of damage, which greatly reduces the role that luck plays in each encounter. Status ailments also play a role in battles, which adds another layer of complexity. And one of my favorite things is that TemTem can not only level up during combat, but also they can evolve mid-fight, which feels amazing when it happens. This mid-fight evolution was seen throughout the Pokemon anime, and it was so cool to see it done here. The animations are also relatively simple here, but some of the more complex moves do look awesome. So overall, I was impressed with the battle system of TemTem. It felt familiar, but also fresh, which is what I have to imagine the developers were going for, given their source of inspiration. Finally, let me do a little bit of rapid-fire commentary on some of the other things you can do in the game. There's a decent amount of player customization to be done, meaning you can tailor your avatar however you'd like. TemTem's deleted techniques can be easily relearned in the menu without the hassle of a move tutor. There's also the promise of lots of endgame content, including breeding, competitive battling, and I believe even a raid system, which is awesome. The game world is alive as you'll see other trainers running by with their TemTems, and finally, your TemTem follow you around in the overworld, which is amazing. So with all that being said, I'm very excited for the full release of TemTem, and it's quickly shot up my list of most anticipated games. This small taste of what's to come gives me a lot of confidence in this newest challenger to the monolith that is Pokemon. Truly, this is the first time I've played an MMO in which I could legitimately see myself getting lost in it. Like, TemTem has take over your entire life potential, and I cannot wait to see what the full release brings. Until then, I'll continue to monitor the ongoing project and recommend it to everyone that I come across. You heard it here first, folks. TemTem has Game of the Year potential when it releases. Thank you so much for watching this short video. Please leave a like or a dislike. Consider subscribing for more. Follow me on Twitter at NopeNapNarp. And as always, guys, have a nice day and take care.